Dave Chappelle once again dominating the news. The CEO of the Recording Academy, that's the Grammys to you and me. The Hollywood Reporter asked him for his thoughts on controversial folks, specifically Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K. being nominated for Grammys. Mason said, well, we don't control who the voters vote for. If the voters feel like a creator deserves a nomination, they're going to vote for them. The thing that we can control is making sure that people that attend our events feel safe. I wonder what that's about. If there's someone that's been nominated that we don't necessarily agree with, we're not going to remove a nomination. We're never going to be in the business of deciding someone's moral position or where we evaluate them to be on the scale of morality. I think our job is to evaluate the art and the quality of the art. We can make sure that all our spaces are safe and people don't feel threatened by anybody. But as far as the nominations or the awards, we really let the voters make that decision. Jon Stewart was on with Stephen Colbert and defended Dave Chappelle. Stewart said, everybody calls me like, you see Dave on SNL? And I say, yes, we're very good friends. I always watch and send nice texts. As for the notion that Chappelle normalized anti-Semitism with the monologue, Stewart said, I don't know if you've been on comment sections on most news articles, but it's pretty normal. It's incredibly normal. But the one thing I will say is I don't believe that censorship and penalties are the way to end anti-Semitism or to gain understanding. I don't believe in that. It's the wrong way for us to approach it. Chappelle and Stewart have been friends for many years. They co-starred in 1998's Half-Baked. I'm mentioning that for a reason. I will come back to that. They did shows together during COVID. Stewart was also present during Chappelle's LA show last May, in which Chappelle was attacked on stage. Jon Stewart said, Dave did something in the SNL monologue that I thought was constructive, which he says it shouldn't be this hard to talk about things. I'm called anti-Semitic because I'm against Israel's treatment of Palestinians. I'm called other things from other people based on other opinions that I have, but those shut down debate. Whether it be comedy or discussion or anything else, if we don't have the wherewithal to meet each other with what's reality, then how do we move forward? If all we do is shut it down, then we retreat to our little corners of misinformation and it metastasizes. The whole point of all this is not to let it metastasize and to get it all out in the air and talk about it. John also discussed Brooklyn Nets player Kyrie Irving and said, this is a grown-ass man. The idea that you'd say to him, we're going to put you in a timeout, you have to sit in the corner and stare at the wall until you no longer believe that Jews control the international banking system, will never gain any kind of understanding with each other. Penalizing somebody for having a thought, I don't think is the way to change their minds or gain understanding. John also discussed Kanye West and said something Kanye said on his tour. He got interviewed by 5 different people because the media model is arson and conflict. He said, hurt people, hurt people. I'm afraid that the general tenor of conversation that this country has is cover it up, bury it, put it to the outskirts, and don't deal with it. Look at it from a black perspective. It's a culture that feels that its wealth has been extracted by different groups. That's the feeling in that community, and if you don't understand where it's coming from, then you can't deal with it. The Chappelle-hosted SNL was the highest-rated episode of the season, drawing 4.8 million viewers and a 0.9 rating in the adults 18 to 49 demo. I mentioned Half-Baked. Well, they're making Half-Baked 2. Now you're thinking, why? And I'm going to answer, I don't know. But the Laugh Button reports Half-Baked 2 is going to come out next year. Well, that's great. Everybody likes that movie. It'd be great to see Dave Chappelle again and Jim Breuer. And nope, neither one of them is in the film. Why are we making this? According to Deadline, the film follows JR, who's the son of Chappelle's Half-Baked character. That's dumb. And JR's best friends Miles and Corey as they search for the money to bury their other best friend Bruce, who died from smoking the most powerful joint in the world. There's no way this movie sucks, right? No way. What are we even doing? Neal Brennan was on the Last Laugh podcast. Among the things on Neal Brennan's resume, co-creator of Chappelle's Show. See where we're going here today? Yes. They asked Neal about working on TV, and he said, I've done pilots that didn't get picked up. Having a TV show is incredibly taxing. So there are times where it's like, I want to have a TV show, but I don't want to work that hard. So I understand it's a hard place, but also it's hard to be compared to Dave for anyone. And I don't ever see us as comparable. I guess we're similar writing-wise, but I think I get compared to him in a way that people don't compare Larry David to Jerry Seinfeld. So again, I'm not complaining. Just one of those things where I think hopefully at a certain point, maybe now, maybe in a week or two, people will go, oh, this dude is a good comedian. So what did they do? They ignored his point and asked him more questions about Dave Chappelle. Hey, Neal Brennan, you know Dave Chappelle? Yeah. What's it been like for you to watch him turn into a comedy villain? Wow. Neal said, look, my take on all this stuff is the size that Dave has grown into as a figure in American life is so funny to me. It's so absurd. From Chappelle's Show to now, it's also crazy. I call him my cellmate. It's like a guy I was locked in a room with for years, and then he just becomes this towering figure, and deservedly so, by the way, in terms of intelligence and talent. You just don't think it'd ever get that big because that's absurd. I feel like I was friends with New Amsterdam and now he's Manhattan. When I spent the lion's share of my time with him, and I still text and see him and all that stuff, but he's got kids and whatever. But the size to which he's grown as a cultural icon is just funny. I can't explain it. I have these tiny life memories with him, and then anytime I pick up my phone, it's like, did you hear what Dave did? So now that Neal Brennan's made that point at least twice, they asked him more about Dave Chappelle. Sorry, Neal Brennan. The question, and you're special, you do some jokes about trans stuff, but you do it in a way that really doesn't make that community the punchline, and that's one of the criticisms that's been leveled against Dave Chappelle. Do you feel like that criticism has been fair or totally unjustified? Or how do you think about all the incoming that he's received over this stuff? Neal Brennan said, it looks stressful when I look at what he's dealing with all this stuff, like a level of stress that I have no interest in, that I truly don't even think I can handle. I'm not saying don't say what he said, I'm saying it like don't get involved. Last laugh said, it's a little baffling to me. Is him continuing to go back to the well of that particular issue? Neal said, yeah, I guess it's very important to him in a way that I don't quite understand. Chelsea Handler, she's got a new special coming to Netflix. December 27th. It's called Revolution. I have a lot of specials I'm going to have to watch in December. And hey, guys, don't put out a special December 27th. I like to work early on my best of 2022 list so I can, not record a podcast Christmas week. That's the idea there behind that such a concept. What are you doing to me, Chelsea? December 27th, Netflix Revolution will see Chelsea Handler letting loose on her life, including her choice to remain childless and alone with the exception of her dogs, dating during the pandemic while her family invades her home, and her vision for the future where men don't wear flip-flops. She was on with Seth Meyers and says she wants to do late night again. She said, I didn't miss doing it till I did it again. I guess she means filling in for Jimmy Kimmel. Is that a thing that happened? I think that happened. And then I remembered, this is exactly what I'm built for. Just real commentary. Being able to comment on things on a platform is a great advantage to have, and it's something that we're definitely missing. There's a dearth of women doing this. It's not cool anymore, so I'm definitely going to get back in the mix and do it again. It's crazy in this day and age. We don't have more females on TV doing the same thing, so it just needs to happen, so I'm going to make it happen. In her view, she'd like to have comics sitting on a panel like she did on her old show, like Fortune Feimster, Joe Coy, and Tiffany Haddish, and she'd like to pair them up with up-and-coming comics. She'd want to see them comment on what's going on in both comedy as well as socially today. She'd like to show people how easy it is to be funny without being sexist or racist. Dr. Peter Grossman is of the Grossman Burn Center in West Hills. He gave an update on Jay Leno during a press conference. Dr. Grossman said Jay has gone through one surgery so far to treat his burns and has another one scheduled for later this week. He confirms Jay Leno suffered a mix of deep second and possibly third-degree burns to his face, hands, and chest, but he believes that Jay Leno is on his way to making a full recovery. Let's hope so. And Sketchfest has announced more of their lineup. San Francisco Sketchfest is the San Francisco Comedy Festival. It will celebrate its 20th anniversary in January of 2023. It's a great festival that I have been to. Some of the newly added events include an evening with Elliot Gould, a 20th anniversary celebration of A Mighty Wind with Christopher Guest, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Harry Shearer, Jane Lynch, John Michael Higgins, and Michael Hitchcock. A screening and conversation with Kevin Pollak. This next one sounds fun. I Married a Monster from Outer Space is a staged reading with Dana Gould, Bobcat Goldthwait, Lorraine Newman, Janet Varney, Baron Vaughn, and more. A City of Dreams live read with Ken Marino, David Wayne, David Cross, Thomas Lennon, Natalie Morales, and more. Houndtail with Moshe Kasher, a great comedian. Improv for Humors with Matt Besser, a great comedian. Lots more to be announced there. Looking forward to that one. And there's a new podcast. It's called The Neurotic Vaccine. This one created and hosted by Andy Cohen. He is an award-winning writer for Seinfeld, Cheers, and Third Rock from the Sun. Nice resume there. In The Neurotic Vaccine, Andy Cohen invites fellow neurotics to share his mini therapy sessions with co-host clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. Scott Gapoian. Inaugural guests include Jay Leno, obviously recorded prior to this week. And Tim Minchin. Do you know Tim Minchin? If you don't, when you're done here, go on the YouTube and type in Tim Minchin Prejudice and stay with the bit. Tim Minchin's fantastic. He's got a concert film coming out next week. It captures his last live tour, which was called Back. It'll be shown in UK cinemas next week. Hopefully it'll show up here in the States. It was filmed live at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. Great name. The show is billed as a mix of old songs, new songs, and FU songs. Also next week for Tim Minchin, the big screen adaptation of his stage show Matilda the Musical hits big screen, so that bit you're going to look up is called Tim Minchin Prejudice. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, audio-only version on YouTube. See you tomorrow.